culture has to come from the head coach.
Right.
But one thing I've noticed over the years is that success has many fathers. Failure is an orphan. And not many people want to jump in on the failure wagon, but everybody wants to jump in on the success wagon. But as a head coach, I think role allocation to your staff is just as important as role allocation to your players. Because failures are going to come for everybody, and we want to develop a program here that we're known for overcoming our failures.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we are joined by the head men's basketball coach for the University of Houston, Kelvin Sampson. Coach Sampson led the Cougars to the Final Four last season. Over his 40-plus year career, Coach Sampson has collected 667 wins. He has led 4 different schools to the NCAA tournament and was named the AP Coach of the Year in 1995. Before we hear from Coach Sampson, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What do you say, Matt Saman?
What's up, Coach?
How you doing, man? You haven't aged. You've aged well.
I would say the same for you.
I remember that blonde-headed kid out there, tough, smart, team guy, make threes, guard you. I remember that guy.
Coach, when I reached out to you on Twitter, I thought there is no way that this guy can put it together. This coach can put it together from a dude that averaged 4.5 points a game, for 3 years. But man, your memory, that's impressive.
Yeah. Who was on your team?
Well, John Lucas and Lawrence Roberts were sophomores my junior year. And we were kind of up and coming and, knocking on the door a little bit. Our record didn't really reflect how competitive and how good we were. Mm-hmm. But, and then the next year, everything changed. So,
yeah. I remember I was playing golf. This would have been August, September, maybe. And I got a call from John Lucas's dad, asking me would I take his son at Oklahoma, and but we already had pretty good guards.
Yeah, you did.
And we recruited Okafor from Bel Air High School, and Lucas was on that team. And when I signed Hollis Price, Hollis was 6 foot and 142 pounds. And honest to God, I think Lucas was smaller than him.
He was. Yep, he was.
He was tiny, but you could tell he was going to be good. But he was only a sophomore the last time I saw him, and he kind of when he first got to Baylor, you could tell he was going to be a good player, but we already had good guards. We just didn't take him.
It's amazing. Well, it's amazing too how I think system has a big thing to do with it. When his skill set didn't fit the system that Coach Bliss really wanted to do, he wanted to run it through Lawrence, and which is pretty smart because Roberts was pretty good. But then he went to Oklahoma State, and it was all through him with pick and rolls and things. And he had a monster junior year while we were sitting there just trying to put a team together.
Yeah. No, he did. Wasn't he a Big 12 Player of the Year?
Yep, that's right. Maybe a senior year. They finished up that way, and they made a pretty deep run too. And but then, golly, he played in the league for a little while, and
10 years.
Yeah, it's incredible.
10 year.
Hollis Price was one of my favorite guys to compete against, and your teams. I just always loved how hard your teams played, and but he was special, and especially like you said, small, but man, what a competitor.
He's right. He's in his office right around.
Oh, nice. I may have to reach out to him too, because I'm trying to reach out to all the people that, man, just had an impact on me in some way. And you're definitely one of those guys. The kind things that you said to me all those years ago, but also just the respect I had for you and how your teams played. Your teams have always played just so hard over the years when I've been able to watch. Well, how does culture drive the performance of your teams?
Well, I've always believed this. if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there. So you have to know where you're going. And for me at Montana Tech, the best teams in our league were the College of Great Falls, who had an outstanding coach in Steve Eggers. Mark Adams, the ESPN guy, was the head coach at Rocky Mountain College. He had good players. He had a kid drafted. Great Falls had a kid drafted from that league. And Montana Tech was an engineering college. So every degree curriculum required a minimum of 30 credits of math. So we weren't getting the same players they were getting. We started getting better players, but we had to come up with something to hang your hat on. But what is it we're going to hang our hat on? My dad made the Hall of Fame not because he won state championships. The year he got inducted in the Hall of Fame, David Thompson's high school coach from Shelby Crest High School in North Carolina, and Dominique Wilkins' high school coach from Little Washington High School went in. Well, they won state championships. They had, David Thompson and Dominique Wilkins. North Carolina's littered with Hall of Famers: James Worthy, Sleepy Floyd, Phil Ford, Pete Maravich. You go on and on with that state. But he had to do more with less. You're looking at one of his best players. That tells you he better figure out how to do way more with less. But he did. He played a 2-1-2 zone. He's the first one I saw that would tempo press the 2-1-2 zone, slow everything down, difficult to score on his teams. He called it passing game, and it was kind of structured, but it was a lot of shuffle cuts, ball reversal, do it again, shuffle cut, pin down, ball reversal, do it, and then the longer the possession would go, boom, you go get a layup. That's the way he coached. So he had a plan on defense, he had a plan on offense, and everybody bought into it. And those kids back then, we were a real small, rural, poor community. So we knew each other, grew up with each other. We all played basketball, baseball, and football. We all played 3 sports. Some of us played 4, ran track. So from Little League baseball all the way through high school. But you in college, you recruit these quote star guys, really good players that's been talked about forever. And I think the most difficult thing, and this is what the great programs do, is they get kids to play for each other. Everybody talks about things like that, but it's difficult to do. That's why I always tell people, you've got to know where you're going. In Montana Tech, I found out where I was going based on what the other schools had. I couldn't play like them. So we had to develop an edge, and I've always been able to put a chip on my kids' shoulders. I take my chip and put it on them because I've always had a chip. I think coming from where I came from, people from where I came from, most of them knew exactly what they were going to do with their lives. Most of them would finish high school, go to the local college, get a teaching certificate, and then teach school for 30 years and retire. That's it. That's what. And the ones that didn't went to the Army, went to Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne, which is 30 miles from where I lived. Everybody went to the service or a school teacher. That's it. My dad was a school teacher. My mom was a nurse. I didn't know anybody that lived out of state. And so, I came from that to coaching, and but that's never left me. I think. We always tell kids to don't ever forget where you came from, because those are the experiences that shape you. The kids that change, people that change and try to let the great experiences shape you. You have a tendency to forget. I've never forgotten, the chip we had, or I had to have on my shoulder at Montana Tech. So we decided that we're going to loose ball drills, take charge drills, toughness. I didn't even care. You know, I had a philosophy back then, Matt. I didn't care how many guys fouled out. You know, I said if we foul every possession, they can't call them all.
Let's go.
You know?
Yeah.
Just be physical and you know, beat the crap out of people. But
Yeah.
they're going to know. They're going to know when they play Montana Tech. That's going to be the hardest nosed, blue collar, toughest team in our conference, and that's how we won. You know, we didn't match up talent wise. And, you know, I knew who the best teams were. The best teams had the best coaches, you know, and I learned from them. There was an old guy at Western Montana that was way ahead of his time. His name was Casey Keltz. Casey Keltz's best friend was Dick Motta. Dick at the time was the coach of the Mavericks. And he invited me up to speak at his basketball camp. You know, when I was head coach at Tech, when I went to Tech, I was 24. I was 25, turned 25 in October. So these guys were all mid-40s to mid-50s, been at their schools forever, were legends in their community. And here's this kid from North Carolina by way of Michigan State. Who is he? I was asking the same thing. You know, who am I? But, you know, I developed that mentality. Montana Tech forced me to come up with a way, if I wanted to win. If you're going to win, you better figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
But one thing I tried to focus on, Matt, was not repeat mistakes. I wasn't a very good end of the game coach back then. But I wrote them down. You know, substitutions, fouling, taking advantage of matchups, shot selection. You know, I was into all that stuff back then. And then when I went to Washington State, there's 10 teams in the Pac-10. You know, the toughest job was Washington State. So here we go again. How are you going to win at Washington State? Oregon State had Gary Payton. Arizona had Sean Elliott. Terrell Brandon was at Oregon.
Wow.
Stanford had Todd Lichty and Adam Keefe. Cal had multiple pros. Everybody had pros. Eldridge Kazner was at Washington. And here comes little Washington State. My third year, we went 7-22. We lost 18 straight games. I think that year, I learned more about me that year than any other year. I was proud of that team. That team was
7-22. But you were still proud of the work that they had done that year.
Yeah, they never quit. You know, we weren't as good as those teams. But I would tell our kids every game. You know, we'd lose the game, get to the next one, lose the game, get to the. We just kept losing. But this story will tell you how and I still stay in touch with almost every one of the kids on that.
That's awesome.
Talking to Daryl Woods the other day, Winston Bell, Benny Seltzer. I mean, we had some great kids on that team. So that year, the Pac-10 tournament was in Tempe at Arizona State's gym, and we're playing USC, and they got Harold Miner and a bunch of freak athletes. And here come the Cougars. You know, people don't take it serious. We get up 22-5, and you know, in the back of your mind, you know, how in the world we have 22-5? What's wrong with those guys? But they didn't take us serious. But we did.
Yeah.
You know, our kids, even though we had been beat up, we've been bloodied, that we weren't knocked out. We were still fighting. We're still trying to get to it's a 15-round fight, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you're losing, you just keep fighting. Knock you down, get back up. I mean, those are lessons you learn.
That's a great foundation to build a program on.
It is. It really is, Matt. And we wound up losing that game, which was we were 1-0 in the Pac-10 that year. And then we lost 17 straight. Our two best players, David Sanders and Todd Anderson. Todd was a 7-foot kid from Sammamish, Washington, and David was a 6'2" guard from Spokane. Todd averaged 13 and 7 the year before, and David averaged about 14. He was a little bit ahead of his time. He was Mark Price from Georgia Tech. Really good shooter, but it's weird. I lost them all. I lost both of them early December. And
It's hard to
at the
overcome
time,
that sometimes.
yeah, and at the time we lost it. We'd been out to Knoxville, Tennessee. Allen Houston was playing for Tennessee at the
Wow,
time.
amazing players, man.
Yeah, yeah, and we almost beat them. We beat it was an 18. We beat two teams and we lost to Tennessee. And I said we were probably a 8-10, maybe 9-11 if things went well, conference team. But when we lost those two kids, my best players became freshmen and first-year JUCO kids, and that's a tough recipe. But that's the way it is. You don't. But that team fought all the way to the end. 22-5. I think we lost maybe by 8 or 9. They woke up and realized we weren't going to roll over. But that year, and I tell people about that. There's a ladder over here in the corner. Let me see if I can.
Oh yeah.
See that ladder?
Yeah.
Joe Castiglione sent me that ladder, and the ladder says, "I hope you'll need to use this a lot during your journey as a Houston Cougar." Well, we've cut 2 nets down here from winning championships.
Yeah.
And I tell our kids all the time, I take this ladder to their first practice and I set it up. And I said, you guys were going to get the wrong idea about why I set this ladder up. I said, I want you to look at the first step. I said, the first step on that ladder is your first step on the ladder to success. I said, your first step is going to be failure for every one of you. It's going to be a practice where you got your butt blistered, where you had to run forever. You're not playing hard enough. You're not rebounding hard enough. You're not getting on the floor hard enough. And those are going to be failures for you. If you go to class, you be a good person, make good decisions off the court, your life will go fine. But on this court here, it's a different life. These are the things you have to do. But I said, those of you that choose not to, that first step will be failure. Now, after that, key is to get to the next step. And then once you take the necessary steps, don't skip steps. Every step represents a different stage in the season.
Love that.
And so I take the ladder, put it back in my office. It's always here for our coaches to see. But there's a symbol to growth. Failure is a lot of things. It's falling down, getting beat up. But you really never lost anything till you quit. As long as you don't quit, you can you can fail in a lot of different ways. Life will throw you some fastballs that will hit you, but you can't quit. You can't let other people define who you are. You have to know who you are. And I think that's how you develop your culture. The culture has to come from the head coach.
Right.
One thing I've noticed over the years is that success has many fathers. Failure is an orphan. And not many people want to jump in on the failure wagon, but everybody wants to jump in on the success wagon. But as a head coach, I think role allocation to your staff is just as important as role allocation to your players. Because failure is going to come for everybody. And we want to develop a program here that we're known for overcoming our failures. Success, that's a byproduct of a lot of things. But if we can not forget those little things, I've always made a big deal out of little things. And I think that's why our teams over the years, whether they be at Montana Tech, Washington State, Oklahoma, I wasn't in Indiana long enough, and then here at Houston. So it's been a wonderful journey, Matt. But those formative days at Montana Tech, so appreciative of that opportunity to fail, and I did, but I learned from it.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Ballology Skill Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NIA and NJCAA to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 10-minute, 100-shot test can be taken for free today on the Ballology mobile app. Elevate your game. Coach, it's so cool to get to listen to your story and kind of, because I've been such a fan of yours for a long time and competing against you and now watching you, and just to see the dots kind of connect on that map, and how, so many people want to have teams that play as hard as yours and have a chip on their shoulders like yours, but it started with you, how you were as a high school player, the town that you grew up in, and then the jobs that you started in. And the fact that I love the fact that with that ladder, my immediate thought was when you showed it that you go up and you practice cutting the neck, because that's what we're going to do here. But you actually start at the bottom and you talk about you're going to fail quite a bit, but the biggest thing is don't quit. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. No, I don't. This year we cut 2 nets down. One, our conference tournament championship against Cincinnati, and then beating Oregon State in the Midwest Regional. And they gave me a pair of scissors when we did the Oregon State thing. And like everybody else, you get a piece of the net, or I think I got the net here somewhere. But we never talk about the destination. I focus on the trials and tribulations of journeys. It's a journey, and at the end of the day, that's what you remember. It's like Scott at Baylor. I was at Oklahoma when he started. I remember, I don't remember, it was 3 or 4 years. I remember his first year, second year, his third year, if it was a fourth year. I remember what it was like. So when we played them that Saturday, there was a different appreciation for me playing Baylor than maybe other people. I thought about, the Montana Tech, the 18 consecutive losses at Washington State. Because Scott had gone through that too. He knew. Nobody. Everybody talks about the rebuilding job we did here. It doesn't compare to what he did at Baylor.
Yes, sir.
It just doesn't. Unless you were there.
Yeah.
You'll never fully understand it. But as an opposing coach, I remember at the end of Dave's years, he had pretty good players. Baylor was kind of on the way. They were going to be good.
Right.
And then whatever happened. And then Scott comes in, and, it's the toughest thing for him from an opposing coach's standpoint, and I know nothing about the inside, is that our league was so good.
Yes, sir. It was.
That there's Texas and Oklahoma State and Tech, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska. There was nobody to beat.
Yep.
If you didn't have a good team, you're going to get beat every night. It's kind of like my teams at Washington State. We couldn't beat anybody. We tried hard, but we just weren't good enough. And that's what that Baylor team was like. And then, but brick by brick, man. Yeah. That's how this thing works. You do it brick by brick. If you do it brick by brick, Matt, it stays. Coaches that want to take shortcuts and building their rosters.
Yeah.
Their houses usually are built in sand.
It catches up to them.
Yeah. If you do it the right way, sustained success means that you've built a program. Mm-hmm. One-hit wonders means you just had a good year. So Scott has built a great program, and that program's been built on his culture. Yeah. Culture is a word that's a synonym. It's sounds the same to everybody, but has different meanings.
Yes, sir.
Scott, I don't know how Scott built his culture. Like most people don't know how we built our culture here, or how Mike has built his at Duke or Tom at Michigan State. But those the programs that year after year, they're going to be good. Have gotten kids to buy in, and the head coach knows exactly which road he wants to go to. If you don't know if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there. Yeah. And those coaches that know exactly what road to take.
My senior year at Baylor was Coach Drew's first year, and we had 6 scholarship players. And like you said, to play against teams like yours, Rick Barnes at Texas, and all those, and it was difficult. But I really resonated with your team of 7-22 because we were 8-21, and it was the most successful team I've ever played on. Just because we showed up and we played hard and we didn't quit when most people wouldn't have blamed us for quitting. And so I really appreciate you sharing that story. I think it'll resonate with a lot of people out there.
Yeah, our first year here, we went 13-19. I've been married to my wife for 41 years, I think 42 in June. And she's never asked me to have, she's just a great coach's wife. She's been every step of the journey. She deserves as much success about this stuff. Credit for success as anybody. But she asked me, would I get a ball signed by that team? Because at the end of the year, our starting 3 to start the year was our point guard. We had, when I took this over, we're in an age where kids just transfer, right?
Right.
All the best players transferred. And, there was no transfer portal then. If there'd been a transfer portal, we wouldn't have went 13-19 probably. But, we just picked the pieces up and said, we're going to build a culture. And it's going to start this year. Here's why we're going to do it. If we lose games along the way, then so be it. I don't care. Sometimes young coaches are afraid to lose, whereas veteran coaches aren't. I'm not afraid to lose a game if it means that it comes down to, pushing our culture through. But that team won its last 4 games, and then we lost to Tulsa in the conference tournament, and they were an NCAA tournament team that year. But they never quit. A lot like that Washington State team. Those 2 teams were great kids. One of the kids that impressed me so much, I inherited him. I hired him as part of our staff. Wow. As I said, your character and maturity, leadership this year should be rewarded. So I hired him as a grad assistant. I moved him up. Now he's a full-time assistant at Lamar. But,
thank you. Thank you for remembering those players and remembering those teams and guys like you and guys like Coach Drew. I think that's why you're successful everywhere you go, and you've been able to build these strong programs is because you don't forget the foundation pieces. I really appreciate that about you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
What's the one thing you would do differently if you could start over in coaching?
That's a great question. What would I do differently? I don't think anything, Matt, because I think it's important to fail.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. Everything that happens to you are experiences. You learn from your failures and you learn from your successes. We're all human beings, which means that I really believe that coaches have to take seriously their role as being mentors for these kids. And over the years, I've taken chances on kids that some people wouldn't, but I can look back and say that almost every one of those kids graduated. They've gone on to live good lives, and I've been chastised for that. Get in line with that stuff, I guess. But I just think that you're going to make failure. Don't try to eliminate your failures. Learn from them. It's okay to fail. Don't be afraid of it. We hear that, but it's really true. It's how you react to it. Like this team this year, our best big man was Fabian White. He tore his ACL in May, and we didn't get him back until the middle of February. Our preseason player of the year, Caleb Mills, decided he was going to leave around Christmas time. I can't remember the date now. And then Nate Hinton, who I thought was going to be a first-team all-conference player for us this year, put his name in the draft. and signed a 2-way deal with Dallas. And then our best big man last year was Chris Harris. He was a senior and graduated. So basically, this team lost 4 starters, and our kids didn't bat an eye. You know, that was adversity. Maybe not failure, but adversity. We developed a resolve. We developed confidence. And you know, coaches, it's my job to give them confidence. Then that has to be reciprocal. Then they have to give me confidence. And this team was good at that. You know, teams that underachieve, Matt, usually have poor player leadership. Teams that succeed at a high level usually have player-led teams. This was very much a player-led team. Our players led this team. Dejan Giroux was a tremendous leader, and what a story he's had. You would have thought I would have probably been the last coach that people thought he would play for, but he surrendered, put 10 toes in, and took off. But this team had a wonderful journey. We played one team in the 7 years I've been here that was just significantly better than us, and that was Baylor. And I thought that was the only team in the country that was this year. I thought we could play with anybody.
Yeah.
But that team was like Gary. I coached against 3 players in my career that could dominate the game at both ends. Gary Payton when he was at Oregon State, Jason Kidd when he was at Cal, and Davion Mitchell from Baylor.
Wow.
And I've had seen a lot that were great at this end, but that end not very good. Those 3 guys are elite. Payton and Kidd offensively were monsters in college. So was Davion Mitchell.
Yeah.
Then you turn around defense, it's like Deion Sanders.
Chest bumping you. Oh, it's incredible.
I loved him. I told Scott, you know, Scott and I have become good friends. But I told Scott that, you know, I don't know if you'll ever have a team like this, but enjoy it.
Yeah.
And
that's good advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy this team. Teams like this just don't come along very often. Sometimes when you see somebody every day, like the Baylor fans or the Baylor media, you have a tendency not to understand how great they are.
Yeah.
But this team in 2020-21 was by far the best men's Division I basketball team in America.
Wow.
And it wasn't close.
Wow. The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. You mentioned something a second ago about giving players confidence, and I love the idea of them reciprocating that, you know, back to you. Can you go into a little bit about what are some ways that you do instill confidence in your players?
Well, confidence comes from preparation. You know, I have a thing written on my board. I tell I have a big whiteboard over here, and I'm constantly writing ideas down. And so I love to come up here on Sundays because I know I'll be here by myself, and I can. I've got a big monitor there. I'll pick a game that I want to go watch. I have everybody, my video people have these things edited down to the minute where there's no stoppage and play. I don't listen to what the announcers say. I just watch the film. And then I just start getting ideas and I start writing them down. But one of the things that we believe in here is player development. If you're not going to recruit 5 stars, then you better develop 5 stars.
Love that.
And we're not a recruiting program. You know, we have to get kids like Marcus Sasser, who nobody wanted out of high school. You know, Fabian White from Atascocita High School. You know, we get kids that aren't, you know, people don't know quite a lot about. I don't think I've ever had a top 25 recruiting class in 32 years of being a head coach. But we do a good job here in development because of one thing. I tell our assistant coaches, we have to be the gym rats. You know, kids aren't gym rats like they were before, but there's a reason for that. You know, there's so many built-in distractions they have. I think the social media thing, the phone thing, I had to adjust to all that stuff. You know, I used to have rules, don't bring your phone here, but those kids can't live without the phone.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
So I just gave up the fight on that. And I just said, you know what, that's part of evolving as a coach. You know, in coaching, you better learn to coach one eye open and one ear closed.
Oh, that's awesome.
You start trying to see everything and hear everything, you're going to wind up doing everything but what you signed up for, and that's to coach your team.
Wow.
But I think the more we get our kids in the gym, I've got, my assistants are great coaches. They are. Kelvin is going to be a great head coach. Quantus White is going to be a great head coach. Alvin Brooks was my third assistant. He just left to take the Lamar job, and I moved my video coordinator up to his position. The reason I moved my video coordinator up is I'm a little bit leery about hiring, you know, guys that are great recruiters. I don't want a great recruiter. I want a great person. I want a great guy that wants to develop these kids. You know, we're not going to out recruit anybody. So why am I trying to do that?
Yeah.
You know, I don't all of a sudden want to start a bunch of 5-stars. Not that I wouldn't take some,
Right.
but that's not who we are. You know, it's just not what our, and you have to be true to who you are. You know, Quentin Grimes was a 5-star. Had a very average to below average year his junior year, got a lot better as the season progressed. But Quantus White hadn't, the impact Quantus had on him cannot be understated. You know, his confidence came from his preparation, from his work. That's where you get your confidence. Me telling you, that's okay, son, keep shooting. That's not giving you confidence. That's just throwing false hope out there.
Right.
Your confidence comes from sweat equity. You know, and if you don't have sweat equity, then you don't deserve to succeed. There's a difference in owning something versus renting something. A good night, 1 out of 10 nights, it means you rented your sweat equity. When you have 10 great nights, and I'm not talking about where you score 20 points a night, where you impacted winning 10 straight nights. That's what sweat equity comes down to. You know, we have different charts that we track, like offensive rebounding. When the ball's shot, how many times do we tip it? Not get it, tip it. Getting it, everybody sees who gets it, but not everybody sees who tips it. When we beat Rutgers, we were not very good that night, deserved to lose. We could have easily lost to Rutgers. We're down 5 with 1 minute and 12 seconds to go. Quentin Grimes goes to the free throw line, misses 2 free throws. When the ball hit the rim, boom, we have this thing we call Australia, where one guy tries to get across to the other, inside the other block. The other guy loops around, boom, we tip it out. Drove gets it, pitches it to Grimes. Grimes takes a dribble, raises up, boom, knocks a 3 down. People's going to remember the shot. I remember the tip.
That's right.
But that's because those are the things, the little things we work on. And people say, you know, the big things. But when you're a development program, you've got to be more into little things than anything else. You know, those little things for us, loose balls are little things. For us, they're big things.
Big things. You
know, tipping that ball out, that's a big deal. It won the game for us. Not the shot. Next thing you know, instead of down 5 and it's their ball with 1 minute and 12 and they'll start having to play the foul game, 2-point game. Let's go get a stop. Don't foul. You know, just change. And the next thing you know, we went from down 9, 4.5 minutes to go, we're down 9, down 5, minute 12, found a way to win. And we won the game on an offensive rebound and a putback. So those are the culture things our kids believe in. They almost after every big win, whether it was Syracuse or Rutgers, Oregon State, Cincinnati, Memphis, Texas Tech, didn't matter who we beat during the year. There's nothing that makes a coach feel better, Matt, than listen to our guys talk about the importance of our culture. That they talk about the culture. Giroux said, that's a culture win today. that's when you know, that's when you know that, um, you know, that's what coaching is about, is getting kids to believe. But when your assistant coaches are the gym rats,
Yeah.
and those are the people that don't get enough credit. I have such a great staff. Um, no, we prop each other up. They prop me up. You know, they make this program better, and that's why I'm really careful about who I hire as assistant coaches. You know, I want people that are invested.
How many former players do you have with you right now? I heard
Uh,
quite a few.
yeah, I have three.
Yeah.
I had four, but I had three. Now, KC that I just moved up, I was coaching the Canadian senior national team. And my video guy was, well, Jay Triano was the head coach. I was the associate head coach. But our video guy was KC, it's K period, C period, Beard, young kid, about 24, 25 years old, from he was an intern with Portland, and then just taking the video job with the Utah Jazz. And when I got the job, I called him. I said, "KC, come with me to Houston." And that was 8 years ago.
Wow.
I've known him for 10 years. He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's going to be great. That's why instead of interviewing guys I don't know,
Yeah.
Everybody here has been together for 7 years. You know, we don't have new guys. There was a guy I worked with the Milwaukee Bucks, Anthony Goldwire, who played here at Houston, got drafted, played in the NBA for 9 or 10 years. Now, I did just hire him to replace McHale. McHale went to Lamar. But I worked with Anthony for 2 years with Milwaukee. I know his character. I know his work ethic. I know how passionate he is to help kids get better.
And they're going to be stewards of your culture. They're going to help teach it and infuse it even more.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, the coach does the interviews. So people tend to want to give, when things are good, give him the credit. But I'm telling you, Matt, this thing don't work here without our staff. I've got an awesome strength coach. I got an awesome trainer. You know, our family, my daughter is the director of our operations.
Yeah, that's really cool.
She makes us relevant 12 months a year. She's a self-taught graphic design artist. She does all our graphics, and you know, we're just about every base we touch, we have somebody that's first team all conference in their role on this staff, and I'm proud of them for that.
Wow. You said one thing that I think high school coaches, and it was a great reminder for myself, is we all love coaching the gym rats, and we always talk about, man, I wish I had more. I wish I had more. But then you said something brilliant, I think, is we have to be those guys first. Like, how can we expect them to be gym rats if we're punching out quick, or if we're not opening up the gym a lot? And man, that kind of hit me right in the heart, like as I'm thinking about this summer. So that's huge.
Coaches, I don't know if you can see it, but right on that whiteboard, the highest word, we must be the gym rats.
Yeah.
It's got, I wrote that up there 2 years ago. And when we have our staff meetings, I'm constantly on our, you know, I don't want reports, you know, recruiting's recruiting. You know, we're going to get good players.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, Giroux is a borderline NBA guy. Grimes probably is an NBA guy. We have 3 guys in the NBA right now that were all 2 or 3 star guys coming out of high school that we just developed them. Armani Brooks set an NBA record, made 47 threes in his first 17 games.
Wow.
Nate Hinton's coming off the bench getting mop-up minutes for Dallas, but he's on the team playing.
Yeah.
Damian Dotson got drafted by New York and got signed a free agent deal with Cleveland. He started for them at the end of the season. So these are all guys that we developed. Now Grimes and Giroux. Next year's team has some kids that can develop into that too. But if we don't come in here every day with our motors on, if I've got to take my key, Matt, and stick it in your ignition and turn you on every day, then that's a problem. I can't. Then we made a mistake in evaluation.
Right.
You know, University of Houston, we can't make evaluation mistakes. Character, toughness. Are they coachable? Are they coachable by us? The way we coach, can they take that kind of coaching? And that's why you don't rarely ever see a kid in the transfer portal, knock on wood,
Yeah, yeah.
from Houston, because our kids, we recruit kids that know what they're getting into. And we try not to over recruit, but we coach kids that want to be coached, that want to get better. We don't hit 100%, but we hit a high enough percentage that we can sustain our program every year.
You said a lot about individual skill work, and I think that's something as coaches in season, without even realizing it, tends to decrease and go down. You're just focused on team. But what would you say your individual skill work looks like as far as in-season practice goes?
Doesn't change, Matt. Especially this year because of COVID, everything was, our kids had virtual learning, Zoom sessions, online classes. So they had a ton of free time,
Yeah.
20 hours a week is really not an issue anymore because of the mandatory day off. So you got six days to get 20 hours. I don't know during the season if we even come close to 20 hours.
Right.
But how we get close to our 20 hours is our individual work. If this was the month of February, January, March, I could hear balls bouncing down in the gym. My three favorite artists growing up was Marvin Gaye, Al Green. I love Teddy Pendergraft. I love that kind of music. But my favorite music is hearing that ball bounce.
Yeah, I love that.
When you're a coach and you walk in that gym and that ball's bouncing, man, that's music to your ears. And I look down there, just know that you see Kelvin over at this basket with Justin Gorham and Fabian White. Here's Quanis over here with Giroux and Marcus Sasser, Grimes, Tremont Mark. Over here is Coach Brooks with all our fives. But every day, that's just not, when people say every day, if we're not playing, it's not a day off. Our kids are in that gym working.
Yeah.
It's not just getting shots up. You can get a manager to pitch balls to them, let them shoot balls for an hour. That's not a workout. That's
Right.
not how we work. That's not how you develop. We work on our pick and roll defensive responsibilities. We work on our double into post responsibilities. We work on getting tips on missed free throws. We go through everything, and then we have two guns, and then they come in at night and they get on those guns. But when you create a culture of we have to outwork you to beat you, and you've got those kind of kids. Not every kid will buy into that early. You just wear them down.
I love that.
You just wear them down, and then when they have a little success in the game, boom, whether it's a halftime, after the game, the next day at practice, I make a big deal out of it.
And that's where that confidence that you're giving them, because of that preparation that they put
Absolutely.
in, the light bulb turns on for them.
Yeah, they own it. They own the house. If you're not putting in the work, if you haven't prepared, then all you're doing is renting. And renting, that means you got to pay rent every month. When you own it, it's yours.
Yeah.
It's yours. You've owned it because you worked hard enough to earn the right. Now it's sweat equity.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever drowned in their own sweat, Matt. Working is sweat equity. You got to get in there and work.
Coaches, the one thing that every team needs is confident shooters. The last 8 years at Grapevine Faith, our teams have averaged 354 made threes each season. I love getting to share with coaches how our shooters train, and more importantly, how they think. If you would like to enhance your shooting culture at your school, contact me directly at jamodipodcast@gmail.com. Coach, the last thing, and this is just it's kind of for fun, it's a speed round. Small little questions that the first thing that pops in your head, you blurt it out, and about 20-30 seconds. Sound good?
Sound
All right,
good.
first one. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Orange pineapple.
That's a new one. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock.
Thank you. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Favorite NBA player of all time?
Oscar Robertson.
Nice. Couple more. Place you most want to travel?
My lake house in North Carolina.
Nice. Two more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Never.
Don't drink coffee. Never had one.
You don't need caffeine in any way to get you going. Love that. Last one. Godfather or Star Wars?
Godfather.
Coach, this was incredible, man.
Those are pretty neat questions there.
Oh, thanks. It's kind of fun to get to, I feel like I know you, but do I really know you? Now I know your favorite ice cream, which I've never even heard of that flavor before.
Yeah, I got that from my grandfather. My grandfather had a little mom and pop grocery store, and right around the corner, this bag of grocery there when I was a little boy.
Wow.
And there's the drugstore had ice cream, and it was 15 cents a cone, and they had orange pineapple, and it's difficult to find today.
That's right.
Sometimes you got to get on Google. I know how to get on Google and find stuff.
I don't think Bluebell is throwing out that.
Bluebell doesn't make orange pineapple. Two things I had for Google is where can you get a thick cut fried bologna sandwich and orange pineapple ice cream.
Wow.
I liked it. I grew up with that stuff. Don't forget where you come from.
That's right, man. It all comes back around.
That's
Coach,
right.
You just gave me an hour of your time, and I'm blown away by it. Thank you for just being so transparent, authentic, and you're the real deal, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Good luck to you.
Yes, sir.
Get those kids to chew wood and spit it at people.
I love it. Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.